and I call the October 10th, 2022 School Board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brian Wopat, could you please call the roll?
Brian Wopat here. Barb Wench.
Here.
Alan Fox.
Here.
Jennifer Deek.
Here.
Maggie Smith.
Here.
Gary Dunlop.
Here.
Chris Lau.
Here.
Bridget Todd Robbins.
Here.
All right, with 7 of the 7 board members present, I declare a quorum. I note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to the agenda? I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Chris, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Chris has moved, Maggie has seconded to approve the agenda as published. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion to approve the published agenda has passed. And do we have any public participation tonight? Okay. Nobody has registered as a public participant this evening. All right, moving on to recognition and thank yous. Dr. Mueller.
Yeah, so this evening, very excited to welcome, officially welcome our new staff to the district, and we're glad some of you were able to come and join us this evening. If you could come up in front over here, and we have a handheld microphone, and Stacy will help you along. We would love to, if you could come up and introduce yourself and just what position you're helping fulfill in our district, and maybe a little bit, where you came from, or anything else you'd like to share. That would be wonderful. So, if y'all want to come up together, we can do it as a group. Yeah, just everyone up and just up front over here.
Lucky guy.
Yeah,
To be first.
come on up. You guys can stand by each other. Just pass it right along. Thank you. We always love this evening because it's great for our board just to see the wonderful people that have joined our team. We know it's not an easy process, so congratulations to you all. Okay, go ahead.
What do you want to know?
Well,
My name?
I just let's see. Who are you? Or what?
Who are you? What
I'm
school
Todd
are you in?
Pica. I am one of the newest Sand Lake custodians. I'm from Trumpelow.
Okay.
I've been here since July, I think.
All right. Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Lancaster. I'm the physical education teacher at the high school. I taught 14 years in Freedom, made a move really quick over here to Holmen. Originally grew up in Monroe, so south down there.
Hi, I'm Allison Grauman. I am the talented and gifted teacher at both Viking and Sand Lake. This is my 18th year in education. I was in lacrosse for 14 years, but I've lived in Holmen for the past 12, so it's just an honor to serve the community I live in. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks.
My name is Andrew Bradford. I'm one of the science teachers at the high school. I teach biology and physical world. I grew up in Marinette, Wisconsin, about an hour north of Green Bay. And in a few weeks, I'm going to start a chess and board game club at Holmen High School.
Yay. Thanks. Oh,
Hi, I'm Kelly Remus. I'm doing 5th grade at Prairie View Elementary School. I was born and raised in La Crosse, so not far from home. I live here in Holmen. Three of my four kids attend Prairie View as well. And previous to here, I worked in Sparta for 4 years and also worked in the La Crosse School District and the Westby School District.
Good evening. I am Sarah Thompson. I am one of 2 of the new associate principals here at the middle school. This is my 16th year in education, 12 years as a special education teacher, 2 years as a district literacy specialist, 1 year as a program coordinator, and then now I am the associate principal here. Live in Holmen. I have a 3rd grader at Prairie View and a soon-to-be kindergartner coming up into the Holmen School District as well.
My name is Ben Tashner, the other new associate principal and activities director at the middle school.
This is my 10th year in education, 8 years in West Salem and 1 year in Black River Falls. Taught special ed and was an instructional coach in Black River Falls. I have 3 little kids, and we live outside of the West Salem district right now.
Hi, I'm Amy Mather, the District Inclusion Coach. I am in my 19th year in education. I started out at Melrose Mindoro and then moved to Onalaska, where I've been a special education teacher for all of those years. So thank you so much for letting me serve the district in which I live and my kids attend.
All right. Okay. Is that very good? Well, thank you so much for taking time to come and share a little bit about yourselves. And just know that we're very glad you're here. And you're welcome to stay if you'd like, or you're welcome. I know there's lots of activities going on this evening, too. And I don't know if anyone else has.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and introducing yourself to the board, and it's a pleasure to have you here, and all, as well as all the other new teachers that didn't get to make it tonight. So, congratulations.
Oh, okay, on with the rest of my recognitions. This week is National School Lunch Recognition Week. So you'll see many of us joining our nutrition services staff to celebrate them in their program. And we love the opportunity when we get to help serve lunch and so on. But thank you to all of them for all they do. And then National School Bus Safety Week is next week, October 17th through the 21st. And just want to thank all of our van and school bus drivers and all those in the transportation department. I have had the pleasure of getting to ride bus, and boy, I do give lots of credit to our drivers and those that ride the bus with the children after and before school hours, because that's when they kind of have their free time, you could say. So thank you for them and all that they do. And then, Julie, I'm going to turn this next one over to you.
I'm up. So I'm here to just share a little bit of our Eat the Street for Education event and to award some dollars to the foundation. So we have some representatives. You can, unless you want to stand through the slides, you can
Microphone.
wait to come up. But Kevin Baird and Lisa Kind are here to accept a donation. I don't know if we have anyone here from the high school, but they also get a little money for the activities department. So this event is held annually in coordination with Homecoming outside of the Empire Stadium. And so just want to thank our sponsors that made this possible for us this year and supported the event. River Bank and US Bank, thank you very much. Ultra and Bluffview, Cooley Bank and Firefighters Credit Union, Creekside Fence and Lohman Family Dental, Verve and WNB Financial. So big thank you to those sponsors. This year we did open up the sponsorship to the Holmen area businesses, and we, you can see there's a few more than previous years because we expanded it beyond our local bank branches in Holmen. We also had 4 food trucks who came out that evening. It was actually kind of a warm evening, maybe too warm for the Chili Revolution, I'm not sure. Usually this event is at the end of September into October, and so it was earlier this year in mid-September. So we did have Chili Revolution, Peace Oven Cakes, Fathead Steve's, which is always a favorite, and Shin Doggies. So thank you to them for coming out and spending the evening with us for the homecoming celebration. And we always extend our flyer and our invitation to our competition for that evening. And we played the Toma Timberwolves and got a win, which was great too. So we always give their school district a heads up and invite them to enjoy some dinner before the game if they wish to do so. And so how much did the community raise? So this year, $5,129 was raised, and we always like to share the total over the course of the event. It used to be the pork feed for education. It was replaced last year with Eat the Street. We did take a year off in 2020. Everyone knows why that was. And so proud to say that we've donated almost $100,000 to the foundation and also to the activities department, because they do get a little bit, as you'll see in a moment. So this year, we present $250 to high school athletics and $4,873 to the Holmen Area Foundation. So this is from you.
Do you want a picture? Yep.
Anyone?
I know. I see. He's looking at it.
I can put this one down, maybe. So,
Do you want to? Yeah. Why don't you, Jen? Yeah, Jennifer. Please.
where do you want it? This way? Okay.
There we go. Awesome. The big check, our big paper check. All right. Thank you.
And I think there might be another picture I missed here. Let's see. Oh yeah, some of our participants. So you see there's some leadership team members. There are volunteers for the evening to help us run the event. And then just a thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for leadership team and for the community.
Right. Thank you once again for your partnership with the Holmen Area Foundation. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Yep. We got a crowd. We got claps tonight.
Okay, moving on to reports and discussion. Executive Director of Instructional Services, Kim Edwards, will now present the ESSA Title I report. This item is for report only.
Yes, good evening. So I have some help.
Company, yes.
Yes. So we have Christina Craney. She is a Title I teacher at one of the buildings that we'll be highlighting tonight. And then we have Caitlin Heninsky, who is an aspiring director of instruction, who is helping us out with our report tonight as well. So we will go ahead and get started. This is the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. We'll be highlighting specifically our Title I reading and math programs and our year report from last year.
Yes, so to piggyback off of Kim's introduction, the purpose of ESSA is to provide children significant opportunities to receive fair, equitable, high-quality education with a focus on closing the achievement gaps within our schools. So going off of that, the School District of Holmen with the Title I program, the purpose is to partner with schools and families, again, to provide support for students in the area of reading and math, once again, to close those academic gaps and promote academic success. So Title I in our district is one of the ESSA programs, and you can see some bullet points of the things that the program serves to accomplish, providing support for universal instruction, along with research-based interventions, engaging in collaboration with families and teachers, supporting a nurturing environment for students, and then working with staff to remain current on best practices through different professional development opportunities.
Back in 2019-2020, we were granted school-wide status for all of our programs. Prior to that, we had been targeted assistance, which really limited us in terms of how we could spend our federal dollars, who we could support, who we could serve. So by being school-wide, it really opened up opportunities in terms of supporting across our buildings. So with that, there are really three components that we have to meet each year as part of a school-wide program. What's great about it is it really naturally fits with the continuous improvement cycles that we have already going in the school district. So it meshes nicely with the work we do in Holmen in general. The first is a comprehensive needs assessment, and that is really digging into our data, determining what we're doing well, looking for areas for improvement, and really setting goals around that. We also then have this comprehensive school-wide program where we really talk about what are the things that we're going to do to help support all children in really achieving all that they're capable of. Then we have regular evaluation revision, really continuing to assess how we're doing and making those revisions as we need to really continue to see the gains across the board for all of our students. As we all know, this always starts with that strong universal program for all of our students, and then we layer on with that this equitable multi-level systems of support. Our Title I program really helps to support that. So all of our, across our elementaries, all of our buildings have intervention staff Then we have an extra layer with our Title I staff. So you may or may not remember, but a couple of years ago, we had some pretty significant reductions in terms of our Title I funding. We lost about 51% of our federal package on this. So that's why you'll see kind of these goofy FTEs that we have below there. All of the title dollars that we get for public use is put into our staffing. And so the district has been absolutely fabulous in continuing to support these as full-time positions within the buildings. This just represents how much of the federal funds are used to support those positions. So we have 3 buildings that receive those. That's Evergreen, Sand Lake, and Viking. And then I'll turn it over to Christina.
So I'm Christina Craney. I work at Viking Elementary. I've been there about 19 years, and I'm the reading teacher. So this is just some of the things that we did last year. We provided interventions that match our students' needs. So we take a look and see where, what the root cause is of their need, and provide an intervention to fill those gaps. Provide a small group personalized instruction, groups of 1 to 1 maybe, or 1 to 4, or 4 groups of 4. I see every day. I send home materials with my students every day. Books get sent home every day, sight word practice, so that the parents can support them at home, and the parents really like that. I give flexible grouping. I change my groups around, talk with the classroom teachers and see what child needs. They're gaining in this area, this one isn't. Let's move some groups around. So we constantly keep those groups flexible. Once a child is entitled, doesn't mean they have to be entitled the whole time. Some kids just need a little bit of extra, and we help them. And then when we feel like they're ready to move on, we let them move on. And then another child might be just slipping because of something happening at home or something else, and I just pull them in and maybe work with them for a couple of weeks and get them caught up. It's very flexible. And then I collaborate with the classroom teachers to make sure that all the kids that have needs are currently being met. Obviously, I can't serve them all, but I can give them ideas of what they can do in the classroom to help to support the student.
This next piece is about family involvement. So as part of Title I, one of the requirements is that we provide opportunities for family engagement. And so Christina will talk a little bit about what she does.
So for my family involvement, I'm very involved with my families. I've known many of them for the entire time I've worked for the district, so which is a long time, 19 years. I'm teaching grandchildren now, some of them. Last year was kind of a unique opportunity for me to reach out and have parents come in and observe lessons to see how I'm teaching reading to their child. Sometimes parents don't understand what it means what I have to do to help their child, and so there's lots of questions. And oftentimes I'll have them just come in, and last year come in and just be a part of a lesson every week or whenever they wanted to come. There was no need to sign up. They could just show up and just join the lesson. When I taught math years ago at Evergreen, I would do the same thing. I'd have math teaching the parents how to do regrouping the new way, and that was really successful. So teaching parents how to help their child learn sight words or sound out words or use context clues was really valuable last year, and that really did strengthen that family connection. I mentioned before that I send home books and materials all the time. I'm always emailing parents. They're emailing me, what can I do? What do you have this? Do you have that? And I tell my parents too, once your child is out of Title I, doesn't mean that I'm not going to stop being an advocate for you or for your child. You know, my door is always open. You can always pop me an email. And I have had parents come to me later years, 4th and 5th grade student that I'm no longer working with, say, this is what I'm noticing. What do you suggest? And so I can work it out with them. I send home family notes, reading tips, and what to look for. Usually that comes home once a month, maybe once every other month. Depends on the needs of the child. And then I do a summer mailing, book mailing, where I look at every child and what level they are, and I organize envelopes to be sent home 4 times in the summer, every other week in the summer. It takes me like 4 months to get this all straightened because everyone is geared towards that specific child. So they'll have books that are sent home on their level every other week so that they can be reading at home over the summer. And then I send home sight word. Of course, I send home a little note reminding them to read, and then I send home sight word lists when they're getting ready to reapproach when school time comes in August. Send home the sight word list telling them, please find your sight words that we worked on all year. If you don't have them, here they are. Have mom and dad practice to get them a jump start on that. And then sending them one last mailing right before school, reminding them that we have our open house and to come in and to see me before the school year starts. And the parents really love seeing that. The kids love getting mail. And so it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding for the kids. And I think that was like over the pandemic, I continued to send them out home. In March, when we closed down in 2020, I sent them home from March all the way through August so that the kids would have something to read at home while they were not in school. And then again, while we were doing virtual, I would send them home as well. So those are just some of the ways that I connect with parents at Viking, and I do know that my colleagues in the 2 other schools do the same as well.
And then we also have a portion of our federal funds also go to our private school partners. So these are the 3 private school partners that we work with most closely. We have the 2 parochial schools that are in Onalaska, St. Paul's, and St. Patrick's. And then we also have Great River Montessori, which is within our own district. So I'm the LEA for those 3 as well, and work with them over the course of the year to make sure that our Holmen resident students who attend in those buildings also have support as well. Any questions or comments on the ESSA report?
Yeah, I got one. And first of all, huge kudos to you. I love how involved you are with families.
Thank you.
And everything that you do for them. That's really, really nice to hear. So Kim, I got a question about, so we've been granted school-wide access for Title I back in 2019, but Prairie View wasn't part of the Title I program. Why is that?
It has to do with socioeconomic status. So you have to be, we have a district socioeconomic percentage. And so schools that are below that threshold do not qualify then for those additional funds.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thanks.
That's it on that topic.
You don't want to stick around for the state assessment system? All right.
Have fun.
Thanks.
All right, Kim is going to continue to present on the WSAS report.
All right. So I think it was last week in your board update, I let you know that we had publicly released data coming out very, very shortly. And so what was perfect timing for this board report, so we can give you the latest and greatest in terms of how our Wisconsin student assessment system results turned out for the assessments we took last spring. So when we look at our district dashboard, we have, under the area of student learning, we have a number of measures that fall within there that are directly aligned to our Wisconsin student assessment system. So when we see on the dashboard under student learning, we have ELA that directly relates to our performance on Wisconsin Forward. On math, again, it's a Wisconsin Forward portion. And then we also have the ACT suite, which is Aspire and ACT, and I'll dig into the specifics of those in just a minute. So not only are the state assessments required, they do help really paint a clearer picture in terms of how we are doing in preparing our students to be college and career ready, really making sure that they are prepared for whatever that next step is post-graduation. So we do use the results in a lot of ways. I just outlined that as part of our school-wide plans, we use that continuous improvement process. These results are part of that continuous improvement process. So we really use these as one data point in terms of looking at where we need to focus for improvement, areas that we can celebrate. We look very closely at growth and achievement. We also dig very deeply into the performance of our various subgroups as well. All of the data will be reported out in terms of proficiency levels, and this is again part of that accountability measure that comes to us through our state and federal laws. So here's kind of the breakdown of the assessment systems. The first one is Wisconsin Forward Exam. This primarily covers grades 3 through 8. All of our students, I shouldn't say all, the vast majority of our students, probably 99% of our students, take the Wisconsin Forward Exam in grades 3 through 8. For all of those students taking it, there's an ELA assessment and then a math assessment. Then in addition, in grades 4, 8, and 10, we layer on a social studies component as well. And then science is tested in grades 4 and 8, all part of Wisconsin Forward. I mentioned there is a portion of students that do not take Wisconsin Forward. This is also part of the, also do not take the ACT suite of assessments. And that's roughly 1% of our students, sometimes less, of students who take dynamic learning maps as an alternative to that. Those are students where that has been identified as part of their individual education plan as being a better assessment for them. And then finally, we have the ACT suite, which is our high school package. In 9th and 10th grade, we take the ACT Aspire, and then in 11th grade, we take ACT plus writing. So the first one we're going to dig into is our ELA Wisconsin Forward. So this is the culmination of 3rd through 8th grade all together. So you'll see that when we look district-wide at our Wisconsin Forward results in ELA, really overall we're rebounding very, very nicely coming up from our results during the pandemic. You'll see that we're actually significantly outperforming the state, and we are a top performer here among our peer districts. In case you can't see it, the red is us, blue is the average of our peer districts, and then you'll see state below in green. And then if you look at the chart below, you can see our trend data with the latest percentage of students performing proficient or advanced. So you'll see Holmen was near the top with 49.1% of our students achieving proficiency. On math, you'll see that, again that we had a nice rebound last year or the year before. This is all last year's data, so the year previous to that, we had a bit of a dip where we did fall below the average of our peer districts. We did manage to maintain above the state. However, you see that we rebounded nicely. We're coming back closer to where we were, at least in comparison to the state and our peer districts. Still have some work to do, but we're starting to rebound there. You'll see in science across 3 through 8 that we really had an absolutely phenomenal rebound. We actually are outperforming where we were prior to the pandemic. So if you look at our 5 years worth of data, we really have a high point there, significantly outscoring the state and the peer districts as well. Not only the average of the peer districts, but individuals as well. When we look at social studies, again, this is 4th, 8th, and 10th grade. You'll see a similar trend to what we saw in science with, again, rebounding really nicely. You'll see that, again, if you look at our 5-year trend, that was a high score for us in terms of proficiency. Then with a goal really to better serve all of our students, we really wanted to break down performance in our different subgroups that we have represented across the district. So you'll see in these tables, what we've done is taken the School District of Holmen demographics. So you'll see the rough demographic breakdown of our entire district, and then percent proficient is percentage of students in those particular subgroups who earned proficiency. So for example, in ELA, across the district, we have 7.9% of our students who are Asian. Of that subgroup of students, 32.8% of them achieved proficiency or met the proficiency benchmarks. You'll see that we do not have scores in some of the areas where we have very small percentages of students. If the subgroup is too small, they will not publicly report that data. And then we broke it down as well in terms of disability and English proficiency status. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the percentage of our students, this is grades, again, 3 through 8, who students without disabilities percentage that met proficiency versus our students identified with disabilities, how they performed. And then you'll notice that across the district, 12.1% of our student population is identified with students with disabilities, and for that group, 18.9% met proficiency in ELA and 19.3% met proficiency in math. If we look at the table on the right, we then break it down by language proficiency. So the left, you'll see our students who are English proficient compared to our multilingual or English language learners. So you'll see right around both for ELA and math, roughly 50% of our students who are language proficient achieve proficiency, where significantly lower percentages for our students who are multilingual, which makes up about 3.2% of our population. And then we move to Aspire. So we're moving up to the high school now. This is the exam that our 9th and 10th graders take, with the exception of those that do take the DLM. There are 5 subtests in Aspire: English, reading, writing, math, and science. English, reading, and writing are all put together in a single ELA score as well. So we'll take a look at each of those. So when we look at ELA performance for our 9th and 10th graders, you'll notice that we have a very modest increase over last year. This did keep us close to the performance average level of proficiency for our peer districts, and a little bit above the state as well. So you'll see that we fall right kind of in between there. So still fairly significantly far away from where we were pre-pandemic level, but at least moving in the right direction. And same for math. We had a little bit more of a rebound there, still placing us right kind of in between the performance level for the state and the average of our peer districts. But you'll see us slowly starting to move in the right direction there in math as well. And then again, pretty similar in science as well, though science dropped a little bit. It still lands us. We continue to be above the state and average of our peer districts, but because we went down a little bit, it brings us a little bit closer to the average of our peer districts. And then when we look at this assessment in terms of breaking it down in terms of our subgroups by demographic, when we look at our race and ethnicity data, you'll see the same percentages. Again, we pull these across the district, but our individual assessment clumping should be closely represented by that, and maybe some subtle differences, particularly when we're looking at just the high school. But you'll see the percentage of students of our student population that subgroup makes up on the left-hand column, and then the right-hand column is the percent, again, who reach proficiency on the state exam. So you'll see that we have slightly better performance for our students who identify as white and have some more work to do with our other groups. And again, the same breakdown by disability and English proficiency status. Again, you'll see on the left is our students without disabilities compared to our students with disabilities. And then again, on the right-hand side, our students who are English proficient compared to the performance of our students who are multilingual learners. And then that takes us into ACT. So this is our 11th graders. This is, again, 5 subject areas: English, reading, writing, math, and science. We'll take a look at each of those as well as the composite score that those results generate. So when we start looking at ELA, you'll notice, like many of our peers, this year was it was a little tough for us. And so you'll see that we dropped down to a 28.2% for our students 28.2% of our students who met proficiency in ELA. You'll notice that brings us down below the average of our peer districts as well as below the state average. And similar is what happened in math as well. You'll see we dropped down to a 20.7% of our students who met proficiency, again dropping us below the state average and the average of our peer districts. In science, science also fell below the state and peers with 26.5% of our students meeting proficiency. Whoops, that's the composite. Here we go. On science, 26.5% of our students meeting proficiency, again, dropping us below the state and the average of our peer districts. And then our composite score. This is kind of the culmination of all of those different pieces, and it puts it on a scale of up to 36, with 36 being the highest score that you can achieve in an ACT composite. You'll see that last year, or 2 years ago, we were at a 19.1 composite for our average. This year we dropped a little bit again, just to 19, which again drops us just a hair below the state average and the average of our peer districts. And then when we break it down, the first graph again is by race and ethnicity. And so I populated this one a little bit differently just because of the makeup of ACT and the composite piece to get it all in one. But you'll see again, we have our major subgroups, the percentage that are represented by our whole district population. In the next column, you'll see the percentage of students in that particular subgroup who met proficiency by state definition. And then next to that is our percentage of students who met proficiency in math. And then finally, for those groups where we had a large enough population to do it, you can see our average composite score by that demographic. So you see our students who are Asian earned an average composite score of 17 compared to our white students who earned an average composite score of 19.3. And then we break it down again by disability and English proficiency status. So you'll see again on the left-hand side, it's students without disabilities compared to our students who do have disabilities. And then at the bottom, you'll see the difference in our composite score for each of those groups. So our students without disabilities, on average, get a 19.3 composite compared to our students with disabilities, 16.1. And then when we move over to our students who are English proficient compared to our multilingual learners, you'll see our English proficient students average a 19.1 and our students who are multilingual a 15.5. So we do have a lot of celebrations, but we also have some things we need to work on. Some of the big celebrations are that we really have made some impressive rebounds looking at our 3rd through 8th grade data across ELA, math, science, and social studies. So much so that our science and social studies are actually meeting or surpassing our pre-pandemic levels. And we do have some modest improvements happening in ELA and math on Aspire. But what we do know is that we need to continue to work on strengthening our core areas for all of our students. As we can see by the breakdown of our different subgroups, we still have quite a bit of work to do, really to improve access and opportunity for all of our students across the district. So we have been working on things. So when we look at it across the district, thanks to you and your approval of expansion of our instructional coaching program, we do have middle school and high school coaches now. We also have a district inclusion coach, and we also have coaching for all of our district, our instructional leaders across the district. Again, continuing to work on building and strengthening that PLC culture and digging into that continuous improvement. We also are doing a lot of work across the district in terms of curriculum. We are working on writing the K-12 ELA curriculum, really making sure that we are aligned to the new standards, which has a pretty significant change in emphasis, particularly in the primary grades in terms of structured literacy. So we've already done some work there in implementing some more phonics in K2. We've also, we're fortunate in that we were able to obtain Wisconsin Reading Corps tutors who not only do intervention but also prevention in the early grades in terms of reading foundational skills. And then we also were able to host in district through a partnership with Viterbo, a 1316 reading teacher licensure program at little or no cost for our staff, which is a huge bonus in terms of what we can deliver our students in terms of expertise and skill set. Then we move into math. Math is currently doing that same needs assessment that ELA went through before. What's very exciting with this is we have a partner at UWL, Professor Koziak, who is extremely excited to be partnering with us. So digging into the data and really taking a look at where our gaps are and really helping us to align and strengthen our system there. We also have teams visiting some model sites in terms of performance and what they do. We're doing some various book studies, and we have lots of different math professional development opportunities to strengthen that system there. We also are starting to dig into some equity and leadership development. We had some additional training and support for our guiding coalition teams in August. And then, as many of you know, at the back to school, we had Amanda Goodenough coming in to address cultural humility. So getting to start really working on a strategic plan on how to address some of those gaps that we currently have. In addition to all of this, our high school has taken some individual steps as well to really strengthen their programs. They've really started honing in on systematic check-ins with all of their students, really targeting individual learning and goal setting and providing feedback there. They've been going through exams and classwork, ensuring that rigor is at the level of the state standards and doing some alignment there with those benchmarks. They've been working on increasing reading, writing, and best practices across all content areas, not just in English. And they really have been working hard to promote that reading teacher licensure that we've been able to offer in district. They also have really been working on making sure that our instructional time is focused. And so they have worked hard to really eliminate use of cell phones and social media during core instructional times to really keep the focus on students and learning. So that was a lot. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
Yeah, I have one question. So, I mean, it's obvious that there's significant disparities that still exist across,
yes,
race and ethnicity. So my question is, do you have data that kind of shows that from the last 10 years? I mean, are we making some progress? Is it status quo?
Mm-hmm. We've had a persistent gap. We have, it's difficult because as you know, you have to have a certain number of students to actually register a reportable set of data. And so we sometimes will have a data set and then lose a data set, and have a data set and lose a data set. So it's hard to tell without really drilling into the really tiny sets of data. We have promising things happening. The pandemic really set us back quite a ways. So we're really still trying to get our feet under us from that. But we had some really promising things going in some pockets, and we just need to really dig in and maximize on that.
Thank you.
I have one too, specific to ACT, and there's probably not an easy answer to the question. As you've looked into this further and started doing needs assessments, is there a feel for why there was a continued decline at that level when there were such gains at others?
It's hard to say. I mean, there could be all kinds of contributing factors to that. I do know as we've been going through the needs assessment process, we are finding some gaps in terms of curriculum, things that maybe were should have had more emphasis that were maybe glossed over or were potentially misaligned. So we're doing some cleanup there. I wouldn't say that necessarily would explain all of it, but it might be an area to start. Definitely something we need to continue to drill into.
Any questions? This way. Okay.
Yeah. So with the ACT section, about what score on each of those sections would have constituted proficient?
So there's a different one for each area. So I would have to pull up my chart, but reading has one, writing has one, math has one, and they're all different. They all range from a 19 to a 23.
Yep. And then I had a question in regards to Aspire and the ACT. If I look at the Holmen data for ELA as well as math and compare it to the Onalaska data in those same categories, it seems like Onalaska is 10 to 15 points higher than us, and our demographics are
similar.
Essentially similar. So just if you have thoughts on that.
I think it's the same as ACT. We are covering some alignment and misalignment pieces, some of the rigor pieces that the high school is specifically looking into and making sure that our assessments, our coursework are up to the rigor of the standards. Again, it's probably a bigger conversation than that to really get down to the root cause of it. I would suspect there's probably multiple. Yeah, we're really digging into that. I think it'd be interesting to talk to our students and their perspective too on how that goes and if there's anything that we can also do to help structure that assessment so that it's, I mean, we have very strict limitations in terms of how it has to be delivered, but what we can do in terms of preparation.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to social emotional learning overview. Executive Director of Student Services Jill Mason and Director of Safety and Student Services Matt Myers will present on the SEL overview. This item is for report only and will not appear in the consent agenda.
Good evening. Well, Matt and I are excited to be here tonight. We have worked pretty hard over the last couple years, but especially this last year, to bring forward a rollout of our social emotional learning for the School District of Holmen. This aligns with our student services goals, but it also aligns with our district dashboard goals under health and safety. So we are glad to be here tonight to present to you. This is actually going to be an overview. We have some links in our PowerPoint. If any of you are interested in the actual PowerPoint with the links, just reach out to us and we can send them to you. Okay, so the framework we are using in the school district is called CASTLE. So it's the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. This is a nationwide framework that's used in a variety of school districts and a variety of organizations. Again, on this slide, you can't tell, but there is an active link here that makes our wheel live, so you can look at what each of the different categories kind of their definition. So in the middle, you can see social and emotional learning, and around the circle there, you'll see 5 different skills or 5 different concepts. Those are the key areas that we have focused on for our learning, and DPI is also focused on those. And then we also are trying to align our school, our family, and our community. So those are all things that we'll be working on as we progress. And then we just wanted to let you know that this isn't something that Holmen is just doing. This is something the nation has said we really need to work on, but also our Wisconsin State DPI. So not only is it important for our students to graduate with the ability to achieve at high levels from an academic standpoint, but it is also very imperative that our students leave us having the social and emotional skills that they can go out in the workforce, they can go out into the community and be able to be successful.
Our district really started putting some intentionality to this work last spring, and a district committee started meeting to kind of develop where we wanted to go with this. So we know that social emotional learning has happened in our schools for a very long time. We just wanted, again, to put some more common language to that, and that's something you'll see throughout the presentation. So this committee kind of worked together to come up with 5 kind of roadmap or pieces that grounded us in this work, including honoring our existing systems, really developing priority competencies, and then finding some tools to improve instruction in those areas. Again, the committee and our teams understand that the best SEL comes when it's embedded throughout the day. So while we can have a specific SEL time, we also want to embed that in our continuing work and instruction. As a district, we want to just empower our staff with the time and resources to be able to deliver that. So one thing that we talked about, again, since we've done this for so long, it's not something new, but we just want to improve what we're doing. And then we know that this consistent social emotional learning delivery allows all of our students to meet our vision of belong, serve, succeed. Jill talked a little bit about the DPI pieces, and I mentioned the competencies just a minute ago. So these competencies, or in the academic world, standards, are progressive and grade banded, and they provide us really with the essentials for integrating a comprehensive SEL system. For our educators, for our students, for our families, it's really about common language and standardizing that. It's It's really designed as an additive model, so it's not anything that replaces skills that are taught to students by their family and their communities, but we have a unique context to apply them in schools in a lot of different settings, so that will allow us to do that. And this, our SEL committee, one of their first tasks was to dive into these and further determine what the priorities should be in Holmen, so developing priority competencies. Again, you'll note we really are reflecting on honoring all the great things that our educators, that our administrators have already been doing in their buildings. Each of our representatives, each level representative came up with so many things that were already happening within their buildings. So SEL has been a part of education for a long time. Our goal was to learn about that work, honor it, and then find something to enhance it. So again, if something amazing was happening in one classroom, we want to figure out what that is and figure out how we can provide it to all of our learners. Ultimately, we want students across our district to have this continuum of experiences that has shared language, goals, and progressions from one grade level to the next. And I often put that in the context of saying, what do we want every student in the School District of Holmen to get just because they breathe, right? Just because they're here, they're all experiencing the same things.
All right. And so as part of our district committee, we talked about developing SEL teams in the building. So we needed to make sure there was a core group of staff members that could engage in this work. So in different buildings, they have different staff members on their teams, but for the most part, we're looking at staff from a variety of different backgrounds. So we're looking at school psychologists, school counselors. Thanks to our ESSER funds, we have SEL teachers in each of our buildings. We also have behavior interventionists. Sometimes social workers will sit on those teams, as well as our school nurses in some of our buildings. So really having a wide variety of knowledge and experiences so that we can tackle some of the universal conversations for social and emotional learning, but also embed our practices and our structures for students who may need more, just like we would from an academic lens.
So we did some rollout over the course that's ongoing right now, but over the course of the summer and then into the fall, and found in our 4K, they weaved the zones of regulation, which is what we implemented 4K through 5. They weaved that right into some existing really amazing structures that they had with second step and conscious discipline, and it fit right into their pyramid model. So they have it kind of laid out week by week and have done an amazing job with that. Our elementary, I just mentioned, did that universal implementation of zones of regulation. So all kudos to our SEL work teams over the summer who created objectives, lessons, and pacing guides that are being taught in our schools now. And then we purchased supplies, materials, and resources to have those ready for our students and staff. And we're really focusing, if we went backwards on a couple slides to Jill's talking about the DPI, we're really focusing on the emotional regulation domain.
At our middle school level, they've prioritized competencies based on staff observations and the data. So they've looked at a lot of different data within their building level, YRBS data, other pieces to make sure that they're looking at the right competencies. They've shared tools for their staff in their classrooms, both from a brain break option, but also different types of things that you can do to help de-escalate a child who might be having some emotional regulation difficulties. Within their building, they have their professional learning communities embedding SEL competencies within their lessons. So those are conversations they have at the either grade level or department level team meetings to talk about how they're going to do that. And then most recently, the building has purchased Character Strong, which during their advisory, they are aligning some of their lessons for the students and also purposely looked at SEL competencies to align all of those priority competencies in the work that they're doing with their character education. At our high school level, SEL is traditionally implemented authentically in our curriculum experiences. So whether you're looking at a physical education class or a social skills or social studies class, oftentimes you will see a lot of these competencies embedded right in their curriculum or right in their standards. So first off, our high school staff really did a deep dive into the competencies to really look at, are we actually teaching these, or are we just embedding them in what we do? And so they completed their audit at the beginning of the year, and our SEL teacher and the team is really diving in and looking at what are we doing really well and where are the gaps and what do we need to improve upon, looking at some of our core classes and where we can embed this, and then also, again, student services and administration working to develop what are the next steps in identifying those gaps and filling those gaps.
So as Jill just mentioned, next steps, we're going to continue some of these audit processes over the course of the year to determine where we might need additional instruction so that we can really have confidently have a comprehensive SEL instructional program. We're going to develop that continued development of the tiered system of supports, almost said multi-level. And then we want to research and implement an SEL screener for our students so we can learn more about where they rate themselves and where some of the adults that work with them rate themselves, again, so we can have a picture of where we might need to provide some additional instruction. And then I saw Julie had a thank you slide. I think we missed the mark on that, but just want to make sure I say thank you to our SEL committee, the teachers, that worked over the summer to have all of this ready for their colleagues who have embraced and accepted this and weaved it into their instruction, our administrators who were a part of this work all summer and stepped right up alongside of us to complete this rollout and have it ready to go.
Questions? All right, any questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for the obvious, hard work and effort that you put into the SEL interventions. I mean, I know as a parent of kids who have been the recipients of a lot of the wonderful teachers in our district, how important it is to, have students leave our district who are resilient and compassionate and caring. So I really appreciate that. I did have one question, and that is just knowing, I'm thinking about the disparities that exist on our academic side. What interventions or strategies that are culturally responsive are you thinking about, or have you implemented, knowing that people perceive and express emotions differently?
I don't know if you want to talk. Yes. So those are all things that we have been considering, and I think that is the big part of why we needed to put some purpose to our SEL work. So like we said earlier, this has been going on for years. Teachers have embedded SEL naturally in what they do, that it's just a natural part of teaching. But when we look at the framework for CASEL and for DPI's framework, it really does embed that equity piece. So we want to look at diversity, inclusion, and equity as part of the whole process. So it's not a separate piece. It's really embedding that work. And again, it's the conversations. That's why we felt it was really purposeful to have building level teams working on that, so we can have those conversations naturally at the building level, but then also bring that to a district level so that we can work on the bigger gaps that we are seeing. In our work with Amanda Goodenough, which Kim just mentioned, I think those are the pieces that we are still looking at. How do we bring those conversations about when sometimes we aren't seeing all of those next pieces? So that will be our ongoing work.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background materials on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss an item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
So moved.
All right, Chris, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Chris, a motion was made by Chris, seconded by Barb. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes.
Okay. I just have one announcement off of that this evening. I just wanted to share that we want to congratulate Todd Clark. He is retiring after 19 years of service as a custodian in the district. He's served Sand Lake for quite a few years, and so we just wish him well in his retirement. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to the board debrief. I will call upon board members and ask you to present any comments or committee reports you have. So Barb, we'll start with you.
Finance Committee met tonight. We had our first meeting. I'll let Gary go into more detail on that. And also just welcome to our new staff.
Okay, Alan?
So football, obviously, we're in the playoffs. We had a real nail biter of a game Friday, but we're there, and we're hoping to have a good fight there. Girls volleyball is 18-4, if I remember correctly. I saw some today, and I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Better than I could do. And then I know track this Thursday. They're having another meet, and they've done well previously at all their meets, and so we're expecting them for them to do great again. And then, just National School Lunch Recognition Week. I know the lunch workers all work very hard, and they're very nice and always serving with a smile on their face. Besides that, with the ACT Aspire and the Forward and the ACT information, it's all very disheartening, personally, to hear, because we're seeing improvements from last year, but like at least when I saw the data, I saw that in a lot of them, especially with ELA, we had been decreasing at a rate similar to that before COVID. And so I'm just hoping that the measures that the school district are taking can be effective in improving our academic performance, just to bring everyone up to snuff with state. Besides that, nothing else.
All right, thanks, Alan. All right, Maggie?
Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge that today is Indigenous Peoples Day, and to acknowledge that the district facilities are on land that was once ancestral land of Indigenous peoples, and encourage everyone to take a minute to reflect on what that means and the history there, and to learn about the contributions of the 12 tribal nations in Wisconsin. I also wanted to welcome all the new staff and share gratitude for the Transportation Department and Nutrition Services teams for keeping everything amazing in the buildings. And then, do you want the committee report here?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And then also to share that the Personnel and Governance Committee met on the 5th for the first time. The full committee was present. And we kind of started off with an affirmation of the purpose of the committee as a place to review and develop policies and make recommendations to the board. We did note that within the district dashboard in the workforce area, the diverse applicant pool measure will be updated to reflect data that we have available from the hiring process, so a little clarification there. And then we also reviewed the policy related to board member compensation and reimbursement, looked at peer and other county districts board pay, and the actual board salary will be determined at the upcoming annual meeting. But the committee recommendation was to have that policy on board member compensation change on July 1st with the systems transition over to Neola.
Okay, Gary?
It sounds like you were at our meeting.
Sort
There's a lot of info tonight. I really think the ESSA Title I program is a great support program. I was really glad to see that. It seems like an awesome program and a great support system. And the social emotional learning overview, I also thought that was a great lot of information. I was really happy to see the part of responsible decision-making skills in that, because nowadays that's so important. We did have a finance committee meeting. We have some new members. We have Mary Anderson, Dara Bartles, and of course Barb is a new member. It was more of an organizational meeting like their meeting. We had a policy review. We discussed what a policy is and how they're viewed. Dr. Mueller was kind enough to help us with that. And we're trying to get them all reviewed before July. We have, I think, 8 policies that are due for sure. Joe Haas from Hawkins Ash CPA gave us a review of what an audit entails and why we need an audit and why the state requires it and provides, and it also provides assurance to our stakeholders. A little bit of information that he gave us was end of July 2022, the fund balance is 35% of the total budget. The goal is around 26%. And our total income as of that date was $67,505,795. We also reviewed the norms and came to a consensus on the norms, that we agreed to those norms. We reviewed the committee purpose and explained it to all the new members. And we also look at the 2023 dashboard key measures. We reviewed all the key measures. And then we discussed the committee schedules and when we're going to have the next meetings and so on. Our next meeting is going to be on December 12th. And you're all invited. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Gary. And Chris?
Thanks. I just want to say welcome to the new staff and teachers this year. Thank you for joining our great district. I know school lunch and bus rides are a huge part of my kids' day, so I just want to thank those in the food service and the transportation group. You do really make an impact on our kids on a daily basis. And then just thanks to those who came out to support the Eat the Street event. It was a great event, and those in the community who came out and supported it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Bridget?
Yeah, I also wanted to welcome all the new staff. It was apparent that there's tremendous pride in working for this district, and I think that says a lot for many of you in this room tonight. I also wanted to just highlight a wonderful event that happened last week that I think is a great example of our potential for collaboration and engagement in our community. That was the Human Library that occurred last Monday night at the Holmen Community Center, put on by the Historical Society and the school district and the library. Just an incredible opportunity for our students to just hear from adults who had wonderful stories to tell about them being kind of frontiers and work like women's voting and being a VISTA volunteer, and so many other wonderful individuals were there. So just really appreciated that.
Okay, thank you, Bridget. Okay, again, just another thank you to all the new teachers and staff and for those that came here. Also, the recognition of National School Lunch Recognition Week, and to thank all of our nutrition staff and Mike Gasper for everything that they do for our kids every day. And also in recognition of the National School Bus Safety Week, just a thank you to all of our bus drivers and everybody that works in the transportation department on that. We really appreciate everything that you do. So, okay, moving on. There are two school board committee written reports in our packets, in our board packets. They're the May 4th Building and Grounds Committee notes and the July 5th Building and Ground Finance Committee notes, so please look those over. Upcoming meetings, so this Wednesday at Evergreen is our very first referendum open house at 5 p.m. Looking forward to that. And then we have a subcommittee meeting at 4:30 on October 17th. And then we have our next referendum open house at 5:30 at the middle school on October 18th. And then on October 24th, we have a budget hearing and an annual meeting and a board meeting. So that will be a little bit longer night. October 26th is our last referendum open house at 5 p.m. at Viking. And October 27th is our WASB Fall Regional Meeting and Workshop in Onalaska. So October, these last 2 weeks of October are very, very busy. Then into November, our next board meeting will be on November 14th, and then looking out to the state convention in Milwaukee that will be held January 18th through the 20th. So, is there any other business that needs to come before the board at this time? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Chris has moved, Bridget has seconded to adjourn the meeting at 8:08 p.m. Motion carried. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes.